My name is Tracy Solano, and I'm 30 years old. According to my parents, I was born into a love story. According to me, I was born into a very expensive stage play. If you ever met my parents at a dinner party, you'd think they were the standard for marriage. My mom still tells this story about how they met like it's a scene from a romance movie. She was sitting alone in a coffee shop, grading papers, and my dad saw her through the window. He swears time stopped. He walked in, ordered nothing, and asked for her number instead. They got married within a year. She calls it love at first sight. I call it chapter 1 of a very long illusion. Because about a year into that fairy tale marriage, my dad cheated on my mom with a coworker. He told her himself he was drowning in guilt, apparently. My mom didn't throw him out. She didn't rage. She cried, then said something that would shape our entire family. We are not going to destroy our family over a mistake. We fix it, we don't break it. They went to counseling. They held hands in front of the therapist. They recommitted. They decided a baby would anchor their love, and that's how my older half-sister Jenna fully became part of the picture, and how I eventually came along later as the symbol of their second chance. To my mom, it's still romantic. To me, it's the moment I realized my parents don't care about truth as much as they care about image. Growing up, every time someone came over, my parents transformed. They turned into the couple from the coffee shop story. He'd kiss her cheek in the kitchen. She'd lean against him like they were still on a honeymoon. They'd talk about how marriage is work, but worth it. And our guests would gush about how inspiring they were. When the front door closed, they went back to normal. Separate sides of the couch, separate routines, separate silences. The performance didn't stop with them either. They had a role for me and my half-sister too. Jenna is 5 years older than me, 35 now. Technically, she's my dad's daughter from his first marriage, but my parents like to pretend there's no half between us. The only time it matters is when they use it as a weapon. We worked twice as hard to keep this family together after what your father did, my mom would remind me. You girls have to be perfect so no one questions our choices. Perfect meant straight A's, advanced classes, sports, music, charity work, all on a calendar color-coded by my mother. While other kids had lazy Saturday mornings, I had tutoring at 9, piano at 11, and something that usually required a leotard or cleats in the afternoon. By high school, I pushed back. I started dropping activities, refusing extra clubs that looked good on college applications but felt like slow suffocation. After enough arguments and slammed doors, they finally let me breathe a little, but the expectation never really went away. Solanos don't fail. Solanos don't embarrass the family. Solanos stay together no matter what. My dad made sure that didn't apply only to grades or careers. It applied to romance, too. Jenna, of course, did what they wanted. She became a star. She got into one of the top medical schools in the country, married a handsome, stable engineer named Ethan, and had a baby boy. Family photos with them looked like advertisements. She in her white coat and perfect blowout, him in his button-down, their son on his hip, my parents in the middle, looking like they'd won. When Jenna turned 30, my dad sat her down and told her, very calmly, that it was time to get serious about marriage and motherhood before she ran out of options. She had been dating Ethan on and off. Within a year, they were engaged. Another year later, they were married. 3 years after that, the baby arrived. I wasn't in the room when he had that talk with her, but I know the speech because 5 years later, he gave it to me. We were in his office at home, surrounded by degrees on the wall, his, Jenna's, mine. He leaned back in his leather chair, fingers steepled. "Tracy, you're 30 now," he said. "You're doing very well for yourself, but it's time to start thinking about a real family, a husband, children, stability. You don't want to wake up at 40 and realize your options are gone." I didn't argue with him out loud. There's no point. I just nodded and swallowed back every bitter comment that wanted to slip out. Because the truth he didn't know was, I had already been thinking about my future, just not under his supervision. I'd been with my boyfriend Lucas for 3 years. We'd lived together for 2. Lucas isn't a doctor, which I'm sure will haunt my father on his deathbed. He's a corporate analyst, good money, smart, a little sarcastic, the kind of person who can make you laugh in a grocery store aisle. Was he perfect? No, but I loved him. We were planning a life. I didn't need my father to schedule my happiness. 2 months after that talk, on my 30th birthday, Lucas threw a party. It wasn't enormous, but it was curated. Our friends, some colleagues, and my family, of course. My mom brought her famous spinach dip. My dad brought his polished version of reality. Jenna and Ethan came with their son, who immediately stole the show by trying to blow out every candle he could reach. Near the end of the night, Lucas clinked his glass. My heart knew what was happening before my mind did. He got down on one knee in front of everyone, my parents, my sister, her husband, the people who have watched me contort myself into the good daughter my entire life. "Tracy Solano," he said, voice shaking just enough to be real, "will you marry me?" I said yes. Everyone cheered. My parents beamed, like they'd personally written the script. At some point that night, I realized Jenna and Lucas had both disappeared from the living room. I noticed it, but only in the way you notice background noise changing. I assumed she was putting her son down in the guest room and he was grabbing more drinks, or maybe everyone was just scattered. If that detail had bothered me then, I might have asked a question. I didn't. I was too busy enjoying the one moment I thought was genuinely mine. Fast forward a few months. We were married. Small ceremony, big smiles. I moved the last of my boxes into the house we'd bought together. Our mortgage, our furniture, our shared Netflix account. I thought the hard part of life was behind me. Then, about 6 weeks ago, I lost a sweater. It was stupid. A navy sweater I liked too much to let go. I looked everywhere. My closet, the laundry, the car. Finally, I checked Lucas's side of the wardrobe in case he'd tossed it in with his stuff. I went through his jeans, one pair after another, my irritation rising, and then my fingers hit something solid in a back pocket. It was a phone. Not his regular phone, the one I'd seen, the one he took everywhere. This one was smaller, older, with no case. My first thought was that it was an old work phone he'd forgotten to get rid of. I pressed the power button, expecting a dead battery. It lit up immediately. No password, just a home screen with almost nothing on it. Only one app really mattered. Messages. Inside, one conversation, one contact, one thread. The name at the top of the screen, Jenna. I felt my stomach drop in a way that had nothing to do with gravity. I opened the thread. The first messages were from months ago, about 3 weeks after Lucas proposed. They started as harmless jokes, teasing about something he'd said at the party, about the way my dad had cried during his little speech. Then the tone shifted. Flirty comments, late-night texts, compliments about how easy it is to talk to you, and you understand the pressure in this family better than anyone. 3 screens later, I found it. I still think about that kiss in the backyard while everyone was inside celebrating her. Jenna. Same. I couldn't stop watching you when you went back in, pretending like nothing happened. Lucas. Backyard. The night of my engagement, when I thought they'd just gone to get air or put the baby down. I kept scrolling, numb and shaking at the same time. They weren't just fooling around. They were planning. They talked about staying with their partners until my nephew was older. 5 is a good age. He won't remember that much. And then divorcing us both. They fantasized about trips they'd take, houses they'd buy, how much simpler life would be when everything was out in the open. 5 years. They were going to lie to me, to Ethan, to my nephew, for 5 years. In between those plans, there were jokes about my job, how Lucas could do better than a glorified business girl, and how Jenna deserved someone who understood her level. I co-own a growing business I built from scratch with 2 friends from grad school, but in that chat, I was just a punchline. I don't know how long I sat on the bedroom floor reading. At some point, something inside me went very, very still. I took screenshots of every ugly word, every promise, every plan. I sent them to my cloud, to my email, to anywhere they couldn't be erased. Then I put the phone back together, walked into our bedroom, and placed it right in the center of our neatly made bed, like a little black tombstone. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing. Clothes first, important documents, my laptop, anything that proved I had a life outside of Lucas and the Solano family show. When I was done, I looked around the room that was supposed to be our future and felt nothing. Just a hollow ache where love used to be. I blocked Lucas's number. I blocked Jenna's. I grabbed my keys and walked out. On the way to the hotel, I called a lawyer. My voice shook, but my words did not. I wanted to separate, to end this, to make sure Lucas walked away with as little as possible. By the time I checked into a small hotel just outside the city, my entire world had shifted. I was no longer Tracy Solano, the good daughter, the quiet fiancée, the supporting character in my family's narrative. I lay in the dark staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the air conditioner, clutching my phone like a weapon. If my family loved their image so much, they had no idea what was coming next. I spent the first 2 days in that hotel room living in a strange limbo, part disbelief, part rage, part numbness. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just existed, floating between the silence of my own thoughts and the low hum of the mini fridge. I expected at least one of them to try harder, Lucas or Jenna, to force their way into my life with some dramatic apology, but they couldn't, because I'd blocked them everywhere. I had never felt so simultaneously safe and profoundly alone. On the third morning, my phone finally rang from a number I recognized. My father. I stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. His voice came through soft and syrupy, the exact tone he used after parent-teacher conferences when the teachers complained that I looked exhausted. "Tracy," he said, "we heard about the situation." For a second, I wanted to believe he was calling to defend me, to ask if I was okay, to tell me he was disappointed in Jenna, furious at Lucas, that he had my back. I should have known better. "I'm sorry this happened to you," he continued, and my heart paused, just for a breath. Then he added, "But we need you to stay calm. No decisions right now. No talking to anyone. Not Ethan, especially." There it was, the real reason for the call. I closed my eyes, already exhausted. "Dad, why shouldn't I tell Ethan? He deserves to know." "Because," he said sharply, dropping the gentle tone, "your sister has a child, a marriage, a reputation. If Ethan finds out, their whole life collapses." I let out a humorless laugh. "Dad, it already collapsed. Jenna did that herself." He didn't acknowledge the truth. He never does. "And Tracy," he said, voice dropping into that careful, rehearsed calm he uses when he thinks he's being wise, "your mother and I feel strongly that this private mistake should remain within the family, for all of our sake." There it was, the word that made my skin crawl. Private. In my family, private means lie until your tongue bleeds. Private means pretend your wounds don't exist. Private means protect the wrong person. I forced myself to ask, even though I already knew the answer. "Did Jenna tell you to call?" A long, damning silence. Then, "Yes." "And Lucas?" Another silence. "He regrets it," my father said stiffly. "He and Jenna have agreed to end whatever this was. They want to make things right." "With me?" I laughed. "Or with their plan you didn't want to admit you knew about?" "Don't raise your voice," he snapped. "This family is going to stay intact. We are not airing dirty laundry. Jenna cannot lose her son. If this gets out, Ethan's family will use their influence. She'll lose custody." There it was, his true fear. Not love, not justice, not pain or empathy. Reputation, custody, appearance. And then the worst part. "If you want, sweetheart, you can forgive Lucas. Your mother forgave me. Our marriage turned out beautiful." I almost dropped the phone. Beautiful? The relationship that started with adultery and continued with years of pretending for the neighborhood? My father had the audacity to offer his infidelity as a blueprint. Something inside me snapped quietly, cleanly. I hit the record button on my phone without him knowing and asked, "So you want me to pretend nothing happened?" "Yes," he said. "And you want me to protect Jenna?" "Yes." "And you want me to lie for the family?" Another pause. Then, "It's what's best. For them, never for me." I ended the call without saying goodbye. For 10 minutes, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, staring at the cheap floral carpet, listening to my own breathing. A part of me still felt 12 years old, trained to obey, to avoid conflict, to keep the image perfectly polished. That girl had kept me small. That girl had kept me quiet. That girl would have stayed silent. But I wasn't her anymore. I opened my photos, scrolled through the screenshots, every message, every lie, every plan to betray 2 marriages and a child. Then I opened my messages, typed in Ethan's name, and started writing. I didn't soften anything. I didn't protect my sister. I didn't shield my parents from shame. I told him everything. From the first flirtation to the backyard kiss at my engagement party. From the 5-year plan to the insults about both of us. From my parents' cover-up to the expectation that I stay quiet for the family. I attached every screenshot, every date, every word. And at the end, I wrote, "I'm sorry you married into this. You didn't deserve it. None of us did." Then I pressed send. And I turned my phone off, placing it face down on the nightstand like a dead thing. I knew that when I turned it back on, the world would be different. My family would be different. I would be different. Hours later, at sunset, I finally powered it back on. The screen lit up with a storm, dozens of missed calls, furious voicemails, frantic texts from my mother, father, Jenna, even some cousins I barely talked to. But one message stopped me cold. A single calm text from Ethan. Thank you for telling me. I know exactly what to do now. My hands trembled as I read it again. The words weren't angry. They weren't emotional. They were decisive. That scared me more. The next messages were chaos. My mom, shrieking through text that I'd destroyed a young family. My dad claiming I'd made a rash mistake. Jenna sending voice notes full of profanity and sobbing. A distant aunt texting, "What did you do, Tracy?" But the biggest blow came from a group message my cousin forwarded. Ethan had packed a bag, taken their son, and moved into his parents' house. Divorce was on the table. Custody, too. I stared at the words, breath caught in my chest. Suddenly, it wasn't just about me. A child, a tiny boy who loved dinosaurs and avocado slices, was now caught in the fallout. Is this my fault? I whispered to the empty room. But a colder, sharper voice inside me answered, no, Jenna caused this, Lucas caused this, Dad and Mom fueled it. I just refused to pretend it didn't exist. Still, the guilt curled heavy in my stomach. I spent the night sitting against the headboard, knees drawn up, feeling like the villain in their story. The one who ruined the perfect family. The one who broke the illusion. In the morning, when the sun rose through the thin curtains, I realized something. Maybe I was the villain. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't the victim. And I wasn't done yet. For 2 days after Ethan left Jenna, my phone stayed mostly silent. Not because the chaos died down, but because I had blocked almost everyone. The only person still able to reach me was Lucas, purely because the divorce paperwork required it. Every few hours, my phone buzzed with a new message from him. At first, I ignored it. I had no desire to hear his excuses or his pathetic pleas, but the notifications kept stacking. 5, 10, 20 messages a day, until finally, one morning, I opened the thread just so I could stop wondering. The first message was predictable. Tracy, please, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Then, I know I messed up, but you and I were good together. We can fix this. Then, Jenna and I, it wasn't what you think. It got complicated. Complicated. That word made me laugh out loud in the empty hotel room. Affairs weren't complicated. They were choices. I didn't respond. Later that afternoon, as I sat on the edge of the bed eating cold takeout noodles, the hotel phone rang. No one had that number except the front desk. I picked up. Ms. Solano, the clerk said nervously, there are 2 people in the lobby asking for you. They became insistent. I closed my eyes, already knowing. My father. And Jenna. Of course. I'll come down, I said, more tired than afraid. The lobby showdown. The moment I stepped off the elevator, I saw them. My father, with his jaw clenched so tightly, the muscle twitched. Jenna, with swollen eyes, hair a mess, still wearing what looked like yesterday's clothes. The front desk staff kept a wary distance. They both turned to me at once, 2 storms converging. Dad spoke first. Tracy, he said, in that tone reserved for scolding and lecturing, we need to talk. Now. No, I said. You need to leave. Jenna stepped forward, voice shaking with a mix of anger and desperation. You ruined my marriage. I stared at her, stunned at how quickly victims become villains in my family's script. You ruined your marriage, I said quietly. I just exposed it. Jenna's face twisted. You didn't have to tell Ethan. You didn't have to destroy everything. Dad jumped in, lifting a hand as if I were 12 again. Enough, Tracy, you will listen. We came with a solution, a way for you to fix what you've done. The audacity almost made me laugh. Fix? I repeated. Yes, Dad said. Ethan is furious. He's talking about full custody. Jenna cannot lose her son. You need to help. My stomach dropped. How exactly, I asked slowly, do you expect me to help? My father took a breath, straightening his suit jacket, a sure sign he was about to say something manipulative. You will testify, he said, that Ethan has a temper, that he's unstable, that Jenna was overwhelmed, unsupported. That's why all of this happened. The words slammed into me like ice. You want me to lie? I whispered. Dad looked me dead in the eyes. You will do what's necessary. No, I said immediately. Yes, he insisted, stepping closer. If you cared about this family, you would... I do care, I snapped. Just not enough to help you destroy an innocent man's life. Jenna's voice cracked. Tracy, please, you're my sister. No, I said softly. I'm the scapegoat you expect to stay quiet so you can keep your perfect life. They both froze. I turned toward the front desk. This is harassment, I told the clerk. Please escort them out. I already informed the staff they are not allowed access to my room. Security approached immediately. My father sputtered. Tracy, don't you dare! But I was already walking away, back toward the elevator as they were guided toward the doors. The last thing I heard was Jenna crying, and my father saying my name like a curse. The moment the elevator doors closed, I finally let myself exhale. That was the moment my childhood died, and my adulthood finally, truly began. The last texts. Later that night, after the confrontation, I finally opened Lucas's newest messages. They were different, longer, frantic, unhinged. He admitted everything. That he and Jenna had been overwhelmed, that it just happened, that he didn't mean to fall in love. Then he said something that made my stomach twist. It doesn't matter now. Jenna told me she never saw a future with me. She said it was just physical. I stared at the words. So Jenna had thrown him away too, just as easily as she had thrown me under the bus. Lucas continued. I'm so stupid. I risked everything for her. She said all those promises because she was lonely, not because she meant them. Then, I'm signing the divorce papers. I won't contest anything. No alimony, no settlement. I want you to have everything. I don't deserve anything. It felt surreal reading it, almost anticlimactic. Cheaters rarely fall gracefully. Usually, they collapse into the holes they dig. I forwarded the entire thread to my lawyer. More leverage, more clarity. Then I blocked Lucas again, this time forever. The aftermath. 2 months passed in a haze of paperwork, emails, court appointments, and silence. The divorce went through quickly. Our finances had never fully merged, and Lucas surrendered every claim without a fight. He kept the clothes he bought himself and his car. Everything else, the house, the furniture, the savings we contributed to as a couple, came back to me. Jenna and Ethan's situation, however, became a war zone. Her cheating had detonated their marriage from the inside out. Ethan's family came from money and influence. Custody became a battleground, legal filings flying back and forth. And yet, one day I received a quiet text from Ethan. You're still welcome to see him. He loves you. None of this was your fault. I cried for the first time in months. Not for Jenna, not for Lucas, not for the marriage I escaped, but for that little boy who still asked for me. The end of the villain arc. Eventually, I moved back into my house, the one Lucas once claimed we'd share a life in. But the silence inside, it didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt earned. People still whisper. Family members still say I overreacted. Some even say I destroyed the family. Maybe they're right. Or maybe the family was already rotting from the inside, and I was just the first one brave enough to turn on the lights. I'm not the dutiful daughter anymore, not the quiet one, not the convenient one. If that makes me the villain, fine. Because in finally choosing myself, I saved my future and burned the lies that kept me small.